I smoothed down the loose folds of my carefully chosen Zara dress as I stepped into my family's weekly Saturday lunch in Austin. The $25 price tag would give Uncle Leo exactly what he wanted. Another reason to poke fun at my supposedly dire finances. If he only knew the modest sapphire studs in my ears cost more than his entire condo. "Over here, Nessa," Uncle Leo announced as I entered the bright dining room overlooking Lady Bird Lake. "Still wearing that dress from 2 New Year's Eve ago, huh?" "Actually, I bought this dress just for today. My closet full of Alexander McQueen and Valentino would have to stay untouched until next week, preferably after the Wall Street Journal dropped their feature on Monday." "You know how it goes, Uncle Leo," I said, settling into my usual seat near the kitchen door, the so-called loser's corner, as my cousins like to call it. My father shot me a weary look. I was, after all, the daughter who'd abandoned a fast-track career in corporate law at 28 to gamble with crypto from my downtown loft. The family embarrassment who'd refused to join Dad's real estate firm, date the city councilman's son, or maintain the perfect networking circles. If only they knew I owned half the retail space on 6th Street, where Dad bragged about hosting his charity events. "Vanessa, sweetheart," Dad began, his voice dripping with forced patience. "Have you reconsidered that consulting offer from Martin & Lowe? The senior associate position is still on the table." "Still busy with my own ventures, Dad," I replied, accepting the platter of grilled brisket being passed around. Ventures like the private acquisition of Martin & Lowe's parent company that I'd been engineering for the past 7 months. "Ventures? Cousin Mia snorted. "That's what we're calling day trading now?" I bit back a grin, thinking of the crypto investment fund I'd built from nothing, the one that had just secured its $6 billion deal, the one that would be revealed as mine in less than 48 hours. "How's the crypto market treating you?" Uncle Leo asked, fake sympathy oozing from every word. "Still trying to strike it rich?" I thought about my net worth shielded behind LLCs and discrete offshore accounts. $410 million as of yesterday, though Monday's article would probably push it even higher. "Getting by," I murmured, playing the part they'd written for me. The reckless trader, the black sheep, the cautionary tale they used to terrify their kids into staying on the safe path. My phone buzzed silently. A message from my COO, Wall Street Journal article finalized for Monday. "Holdings secure. Just say the word." "At least your brother's thriving," Uncle Leo declared. "Brandon just got named partner at his law firm and that new penthouse he bought uptown." Uptown? The luxury complex I'd invested in 4 years ago. Brandon's exclusive new address was, in fact, my property, though the ownership was hidden behind layers of trusts and LLCs. "Speaking of properties," Uncle Leo announced, swirling his glass of Texas Cabernet. "My firm just finalized a deal on that new luxury complex off South Congress. Super exclusive, huge profit margins." I nodded politely, choosing not to mention that my crypto fund owned 51% of that development by a silent equity stake. Uncle Leo's firm was, without knowing it, working for me. "Vanessa could have had all this," Dad lamented loudly to the whole table. "Top of her class at UT Law. Could have written her own ticket anywhere. But no, she had to go chase this crypto thing." "Someone's got to be the family screw-up," Cousin Mia chimed in, flashing her new tennis bracelet across the table. The bracelet was a cheap knockoff of the Cartier piece I'd bought last spring. The real one, not the hollow imitation Mia wore. But tonight wasn't about showing off wealth. Tonight was about letting them dig themselves in deeper. "More wine, Vanessa?" Aunt Rosa asked, her voice honey-sweet. "I imagine you need it, living in that little studio and trying to scrape by." My little studio was, in fact, the entire penthouse floor of a high-rise overlooking Lady Bird Lake, the same building I'd quietly acquired through an LLC 2 years ago. The modest lifestyle they loved to pity was a carefully designed facade hiding everything I had built while they weren't looking. "Thank you, Auntie." I accepted the glass, glancing at my phone beneath the table. Another message had come through. "FT wants exclusive interview for Sunday's front page." Word spreading fast. Tomorrow they'd all learn that the so-called family failure had built something staggering. That the daughter they dismissed as naive had created one of the most profitable crypto hedge funds in Austin. That the cousin they mocked for day trading had quietly been buying up half the real estate they bragged about. But tonight, I'd let them enjoy their illusions one last time. "Did you hear about the Montgomery acquisition?" Cousin Mia bragged, lifting her chin and tapping her fake Rolex. Biggest deal of the quarter. My team ran point on negotiations. I hid my smile behind the rim of my wine glass. The Montgomery deal had actually been structured by my fund, with Mia's firm handling only the closing paperwork. They were so low in the transaction chain they had no idea who truly owned the assets. How impressive, I murmured as another message lit my phone screen. Wall Street Journal wants to run the story alongside FT. Your call. You ready, Vanessa? Aunt Rosa leaned forward, her diamond pendant sparkling in the chandelier light. It's not too late to rethink things, Clarita. Your father could still pull some strings for you at the firm. I set down my fork. Thanks, but I'm good with the choices I've made. Far more good than any of them could guess. My crypto hedge fund had outperformed every major investment firm in Texas for the past 3 years. And the mysterious investor everyone in the business press was buzzing about? That was me. The so-called family disappointment. They never stopped mocking. Comfortable in that tiny loft of yours? Still driving that old Subaru. Mia snorted. The Subaru was intentional, just like the Zara dress and the understated sapphire studs. Because real success wasn't flashing labels or showing off bank balances. It was about quietly building something monumental while no one was watching. Speaking of investments, Uncle Leo chimed in, swirling the dregs of his Cabernet. We just acquired that new boutique hotel off South Congress. Very hush-hush. Limited partners only. I nodded, recalling the paperwork I'd signed barely a week ago. My fund owns 60% of that hotel through a shell company. Uncle Leo's firm was merely managing it on my behalf, oblivious to who truly controlled the asset. Vanessa used to have so much promise, Dad said with a weary sigh to nobody in particular. Top of her class, perfect resume. Now she's glued to her laptop, gambling on crypto from her couch. Such a waste. Cousin Mia chimed in, flicking her hair as she admired her cheap tennis bracelet, glinting under the chandelier. My phone vibrated again. A stream of photos from my team in Singapore. Glossy renderings of a $500 million zero-carbon commercial complex. The deal would be announced alongside my reveal on Monday morning. More potatoes, honey? Aunt Rosa offered, nudging the bowl closer. I imagine you're pinching pennies these days. I took a polite scoop, silently thinking about the Michelin-starred restaurant icon downtown, the private chef who stocked my real kitchen, and the wine collection in my penthouse cellar worth more than Aunt Rosa's entire net worth. You know, Mia drawled, her tone dripping with faux sympathy, my firm is always hiring paralegals. In case you decide you want, a real job. I appreciate that. I replied smoothly, flicking my gaze back to my phone just as another message pinged. Forbes wants cover story, youngest female hedge fund billionaire angle. Billionaire. The word practically hummed in my mind. By the time Monday rolled around, the family failure would become the wealthiest member of the entire clan by several magnitudes. At least try dressing properly for lunch, Vanessa, Aunt Rosa called out, voice sharp. That dress looks like it's off some department store sale rack. Sorry, Annie, I said sweetly, neglecting to mention the Valentino gown hanging in my closet for Monday's press conference. I'll try to do better. My family called me a failure over brisket and cheap wine. But in 48 hours, I'd be the billionaire who secretly owned half their bragging rights. Such a pity, Dad murmured to Aunt Rosa, shaking his head. Vanessa could have had it all. The perfect legal career, the right social circles. If only they knew. I'd already had more than any of them could dream. My fund managed over $4 billion in assets. My investment portfolio included ownership stakes in half the premium properties in Austin. My network wasn't built on country club small talk. It was built on relationships with CEOs, government ministers, and actual billionaires, not the local socialites they worshipped like royalty. More wine, Vanessa? Uncle Leo asked, his voice dripping with smug concern. Might help you cope with, the career situation. If he only realized that I owned the vineyard producing the very Cabernet he was sipping. That his precious membership in the exclusive Texas Reserve Wine Club was at a winery my fund quietly acquired last year. That every downtown development he boasted about had to pass through my final approval. The lunch dragged on, a steady stream of polite jabs and passive-aggressive barbs. Each one elevated tomorrow's coming revelation from simply satisfying to downright legendary. They were practically scripting their own humiliation. Just as Aunt Rosa launched into another lecture about my squandered potential, a sudden flurry of notifications buzzed through the dining room. Breaking news from Bloomberg Markets. "Ooh, this looks juicy," Cousin Mia said, peering at her phone. "They're finally revealing who's behind Stellar Capital. You know, the mystery investor who bought up half of downtown." My pulse quickened. This was it. The moment 5 years of relentless effort had been building toward. Stellar Capital. Uncle Leo sat up straighter. "That's the fund that bought the South Congress development, right? This should be good." "There's already speculation all over social media," Mia added, scrolling furiously. "They're doing the full reveal tomorrow morning." I checked my own phone under the table. Media embargo lifts in 3, 2, 1. Suddenly, every phone in the room vibrated at once. Stellar Capital founder revealed. Vanessa Torres emerges as crypto's youngest billionaire. From law school dropout to hedge fund queen. The Vanessa Torres story. Mysterious investor unmasked. How Vanessa Torres quietly built a billion-dollar empire. Silence fell so thick across the dining room you could almost hear the ceiling fan creak. This must be a mistake," Aunt Rosa whispered. Her face drained of color as she stared at the headline on her phone. "No mistake," I said calmly, lifting my chin. "Stellar Capital is my fund. Has been since the day I launched it 5 years ago." Mia nearly choked on her wine. "But that's impossible. Stellar owns half the prime real estate in Austin," I said lightly, letting the silence stretch around the table, "including this house." Dad's jaw went slack. "This house. I bought it last year through an LLC, right after Uncle Leo's real estate firm listed it." Dad blinked. "So we're renting from you." His voice was barely a whisper. "Along with half the members of your country club," I added. "That new luxury development you all love bragging about? Stellar acquired it 2 years ago." Mia's fingers trembled as she scrolled through the Forbes article on her phone. Current net worth estimated at $1.2 billion after today's close. I nodded. Monday's press conference should push it even higher. But you live in that tiny loft," Aunt Rosa sputtered, eyes wide. "Actually, I own the entire building," I corrected gently. "The loft's just where I meet family. My real place is the penthouse on the top floor." Uncle Leo was now hunched over his phone, scrolling through property records in a panic. "This boutique hotel downtown," I continued, folding my napkin calmly. "Approved by me. Stellar owns 60% through subsidiary LLCs. Your firm just manages it for us." "The Montgomery acquisition," Mia blurted, her voice cracking. "My team worked on that." "Also mine," I said. "Your firm handled the paperwork. But Stellar controlled the entire deal from the beginning." Dad sat there, completely still. His perfect composure shattered. "All this time while you thought." He started, then trailed off. "While you thought I was failing," I said softly, a small smile tugging at my lips, "I was building something extraordinary. Every property you envied, every deal you bragged about, every exclusive investment you thought you controlled, it all required my approval." I stood, smoothing the folds of my Zara dress, which suddenly felt like a suit of armor. "I should go. Press conference first thing Monday." But before leaving, I reached into my modest handbag and pulled out a neat stack of envelopes held together with a gold clip. "What are those?" Mia whispered, taking one with trembling hands. "Ownership statements," I said. "Every property, every investment, every single deal any of you thought you controlled, traced back to Stellar Capital." To me, chaos exploded around the table. Mia was frantically calling her law partners. Uncle Leo sat frozen, staring at his phone, his so-called real estate empire collapsing under the weight of the truth that he'd been working for his niece all along. But why hide it? Dad finally choked out, his voice rough with disbelief. "Because I wanted to see who you all really were," I said quietly. "How you treated someone you assumed was failing. How you behaved when you thought you were the ones on top." I turned to leave, then paused and glanced over my shoulder. "Oh, and Aunt Rosa." She blinked at me, speechless. "About this dress." I held up my phone, revealing a photo of the racks in my custom-built closet, rows of couture gowns and designer pieces shimmering under perfect lighting. "My wardrobe is worth more than your entire house." Gasps rippled around the table. I just chose Zara tonight. Sometimes real success isn't about flashing wealth. It's about watching people show you who they truly are. The next morning, I stepped out of the private elevator into the polished marble lobby of Stellar Capital's real headquarters, a sleek glass tower glinting in the Austin sun. My Zara dress had been traded for a tailored Chanel suit. My modest sapphire studs replaced with flawless diamond drops. The press conference unfolded in a whirl of cameras, flashing bulbs, and shouted questions. But one moment burned itself into my memory. A reporter leaned forward, microphone in hand. "Miss Torres, why keep up the act for so long? Why let your family and the world believe you were struggling?" I thought of all the awkward family lunches, the quiet digs, the pitying stares, the smug laughter. "Because success isn't only about money," I said, steady and sure. "It's about knowing who people truly are. Sometimes the best way to build an empire is to let the world think you've got nothing. While they're busy mocking your failures, I let a small smile flicker across my face. They never see your triumphs coming. If you've ever been underestimated or labeled the family disappointment, I hope my story gives you strength. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop me a comment and tell me, have you ever hidden your true success until the right moment? Or are you still waiting for your reveal? Your stories inspire me, and I want this to be a place where we all lift each other up. If my journey taught me anything, it's this: sometimes your quiet work in the shadows is the most powerful thing you'll ever do. Don't let people define your worth based on your clothes, your car, or your job title. Success isn't just about the number in your bank account. It's about freedom, choices, and knowing who deserves a seat at your table. Let them laugh while you build. Let them gossip while you plan. And when your moment finally comes, step into it without apology. If my story resonates with you, hit subscribe so you don't miss what comes next. Because I promise you, the best revenge isn't anger or spite. It's living a life so extraordinary that the people who doubted you have no choice but to watch. Let's keep building quietly and triumph loudly.